Do today's daf yomi. Uh, Today's daf yomi is dedicated in memory of all of those who gave their lives this year al Kiddush Hashem. As we study the Asara Rugi Malchus, we have many more than 10 martyrs this year. It'll be dedicated for Shemir for the Chayalim, Atzal for the Shuyim, and Yeshua for Am Yisrael. So we start a new chapter, which is talking about laws of inheritance. And it's daf Kuf Ches and Bava Basra, but since tomorrow's Yom Kippur, we'll try and also record some of Kuf Tes at this time. It says the daf yomi yesh nochen umanchilin. There are some. This is the chapter that deals with laws of inheritance. It's 30 block, and it's based upon the fact that the pasuk says in Bamidbar Parach Avav pasuk Chas Yud Aleph Ishki Amusaf Uven Ein Lo, and he has no son. Ve'avartem es nachaso bito. Then the inheritance will pass to his daughter. But if he has no daughter, unisatem es nachaso achad. Then you shall give the inheritance to his brother. If he has no brothers, and you give it to the brothers of his father. And if you don't have, if his father doesn't have any brothers, you give it to the closest relative. The Gemara is going to discuss who that is. From his family, and he will inherit it. So we see from here, and when a person dies, his relatives get to inherit his assets. And this inheritance is called a nachla or yerusha. So yesh nochen, says our Mishnah, there are some who inherit, and their assets are also bequeathed to others. Yesh nochen v'lo, there are some who inherit, but they don't bequeath to others. Meaning, say there are some who inherit from some people, and they also bequeath to those same people. But there are some who inherit, but they don't bequeath to those people. And then there are some who are manchil, and they bequeath from those. They are bequeath v'lo nochen, but they don't inherit. And then there are some who are lo nochen v'lo manchil. They don't inherit and they don't bequeath to certain people. Ve'elu nochen u'manchil. These are the ones who both inherit from the person and they also bequeath to those people. A father inherits from his children. The father can inherit from his children, and the Gemara is going to discuss why do we begin with the father inheriting from his children, which is a terrible thing, because it means that the children have died first, and also it means that the children have died without any assets. Hold on one second. So the Gemara continues. So the Mishnah continues. The father inherits from his children. And the children inherit from the father. Could also be banim. Could also be sons. And then we say va'achen mina'av nochen umanchilon. And if you have brothers who are paternal brothers, meaning to say they share the same father, they inherit and they bequeath to each other. All these cases are cases where you inherit and you bequeath. Ha'ish es imo. What about the case of a man and his mother? Va'ish es ishto, a man and his wife. Ubinei achayos, and the children of the sons of one's sisters. In all these cases, nochlin, a man can inherit these cases, meaning to say, a man can inherit from his mother, a man can inherit from his wife, and a man can inherit from his son's sisters. In all these cases, the person inherits nochen, but he does not bequeath to them, meaning the mother does not inherit the son, the wife does not inherit the husband, and the children of one's sisters do not inherit from their maternal uncle. The next category is ha'isha es banea, a woman and her children, va'ish es bawa, and a woman and her husband, va'achei ha'em, and maternal brothers, v'lo menchilin v'lo nochen. They bequeath, but they do not inherit. And this is just the flip of the previous case. They are able to, it's almost the flip, not exactly. They are able to bequeath to them, but they don't inherit from them. And then the last category of the Mishnah is ha'achen Minaim, if you have maternal brothers, they bequeath. Hold on one second. They bequeath, but they do not. Well, they do not bequeath, and they do not inherit. They don't do either one. Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Just want to double check one thing. Hold on. I want to make sure I got it 100% right. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right. So now we continue. So the Gemara says, "My shna de katani ha'aves banim." Why does it state? Why does it start by saying the father inherits the children and bequeaths to them bereisha? Why is that listed first? It should list first. Lisnei banim esa'av. It should first say that the children inherit their father and they can bequeath them bereisha. First, there's two reasons why I should list that first. Chada de skule b'poranusa lo mischalinan. We shouldn't start with a curse like poranusa, something bad, and a father inheriting his son is a bad thing because the son predeceases the father. It's not the natural order of the world, and also it means that the son died without any of his own children. So that's also tragic. So the Gemara says, and another reason is we should follow the pasuk, and the pasuk talks about ish kiamus uven en lo. The pasuk starts by talking about when a man dies and he has no children, and so therefore the pasuk starts with a man dying without any children, not a son dying and the father inheriting him. So the Gemara is asking the case, just like the Torah starts with the inheritance of that a son inherits his father, so too the Tana should have started with the son inheriting the father, and now with the son dying and the father inheriting him. Because it says ish ki amus uben lo, which implies, says the Rashbam, that if he would have a son, the son would inherit him. So why don't we start in that way? So the Gemara says, Tana Aidi Asile Midrasha Chavivle, because the Tana derives this law that the father, if the son dies without any children, the father is the first in line to inherit him. Since he derived that from a drasha, from an exposition of the verse, Chavivle, it's more precious, more beloved to him. And so therefore, that's why the Tana starts from there. Whenever we come up with the drasha ourselves, it's more precious to us. Well, my drasha, what's the drasha? The Tayyun, the pasuk says, in this discussion of the psukim, it says, if a man dies and he has no children, it says in the pasuk, so who is this sheiro hakarov elav? The Tanya sheiro, when it says the relative who's closest to him, that's the father, and that's why we learn out the father inherits the son if the son has no offspring. And this teaches us that the father comes before this man's brothers, the deceased brothers, to inherit him. I might think that the father also comes before any offspring of the deceased. Tamilum or hakarov. It says hakarov, which means karov kodem. Whatever close relative comes first, and therefore a son comes before a grandfather to inherit the deceased. And why do we say that we're saying the word karov is coming to include a son coming before the grandfather and not the brothers of the deceased coming before the father? So the pasuk says, I'm going to include a son to inherit his father before the grandfather inherits before the grandfather inherits. I'm going to include the son to inherit and not the brothers of the deceased to inherit. Shekain kam tachas aviv liyada uestei achuza. the son is the one who's able to take his father's place with two very important halachos, the halachos of yiyud and the halachos of stei achuza. Halachos of yiyud is if his father had an ama ivriya and he's able to be mekadesh her without giving her any extra money. So too, we say that the son can come in the place of his father, and also the yiyud, marriage on the ama ivriya without giving her extra money. But the brothers of the man cannot do that. So that's a special halacha of the son. And the stei achuza is that if the father had consecrated his field to the temple, and then he redeems it, personally he gets it back before the Jubilee year. But if somebody else redeems it, it goes back in the Jubilee year to the Kohanim. But the son can come in place of his father and redeem the eternal field. So therefore, for this reason, we say it's more likely that the son inherits before the brothers of the man who died. Adarabba, says the Gemara, it's just the opposite. Mar ba'aniyas ach, I should include the brothers and say that they come to inherit first. Shekain kam tachas aviv liyibum, because they are the ones who, if the man dies, they do yibum and they marry his wife to keep his seed alive, and so that's an advantage they have over the son. Gemara says, no, that doesn't make sense. The only time the laws of yibum, of this lever marriage, ever apply is where there is no son. That tells us of a makom sheish ben and yibum, that if there's a son, there's no yibum. So obviously, it's not the case that a brother should come before a son. So the Gemara says, wait, time at the ikahai pircha. The only reason why you're saying the son comes before the brothers is because of this exact question of yibum, of this question on yibum, that the yibum only takes place where there's no son. Halav hachayav amina ach adif. If without that, you would have said that a brother comes first before a son. Fapiclan should anyway have known that a son comes before the brothers. The hachitarti, because by a son, there's two advantages over a brother. You have the laws of yiyud and the laws of stei achuza. V'hacha, by a brother, chada, there's only one. That's yibum. So we're on top of kuf tes amid alf. The Gemara says no. Stei achuza gufa mehai time ahudika kaimilei. No, the whole idea of a stei achuza. How do we know that the whole concept that the son is able to step in for his father and redeem the stei achuza? We learn it out itself from this law. The high time of from this idea, meaning to say, you might have thought the pasuk doesn't specifically say that the son can inherit, that the son can redeem the land from his father. So how do we know? Because you might have thought that from yibum you takes precedence, the brother takes precedence, and the brother could do it. So the Gemara explains, Shein ben hayesh ben ein yibum, that the only way yibum takes place is where there's no son. So if there be a son, there's no yibum, and we see from here that he also comes before the brother of the deceased for the stei achuza. So the Gemara then says, Ema. So wait 1 second. We had said that the word she'ero, that he comes to inherit his temes nachosola she'ero karovilav, means that the father inherits the son if the son has no offspring. But maybe let's learn out. Ema she'ero ze'av. So maybe this word she'ero refers to the father. Mohamed she'av kodem lebas. But maybe we'd say that it teaches us that the grandfather comes before the daughter to inherit. Yachol yakdim ben. I might think he also comes before the son of the deceased. Talmud Omar hakarov, karov kodem. So maybe what we're saying is that the word Amos does not teach us that he's coming. Maybe we're saying that the word Sheiro is telling us that he comes before the daughter, and not only the brother, but also not only the brothers, but also the daughters. So maybe that's what we're saying here, that it's not only teaching us that he comes before the brothers, but he's also coming before the daughter and before his granddaughter to inherit. But not before the son. So how do we know this? That he doesn't come before the daughter. Since with respect to yibum, if a man has a son or a daughter, it's the same, and that there is no yibum, that also a daughter exempts the mother from yibum. And so therefore, with respect to Nachor, Nami ben Ubaz ki adadi nenu, also with respect to inheritance, we're going to say the son and the daughter are the same, and she comes before uh, her grandfather and her uncles to inherit. The Ema, says the Gemara, maybe I might say that the word she'ero ze'av, since we said that the word she'ero refers to the father, melamed she'av kodem la'achi'av. Maybe it's telling us that the father comes before his own brothers, the father's brothers, the paternal uncles, to inherit. Yachol yakdim la'achim, and I might think that he should also come before the deceased's own brothers, meaning his sons. Maybe, so the Gemara is saying, maybe he doesn't come before the deceased brothers. Maybe the father only comes before his own brothers. The Gemara says, no, we're not going to accept that as even a possibility. You don't need a verse to tell us that the grandfather comes before the uncles, or the father of the deceased comes before the uncles. On what basis would the father's brothers ever think to inherit their nephew? Mikoach av, they only come from the power of the father of the deceased. If that's the case, so therefore, would you think to say that if there's a father, that his own brothers would inherit before him? It doesn't make any sense. Obviously, they only come from his koach. So the Gemara says, well, since we've explained that the father of the deceased comes before the brothers to inherit his son, the Gemara says, but doesn't it say in the verse? It says in the verse that it mentions the paternal uncles, and it doesn't mention the father. It says, and it even comes before the word sheiro. If you say the word sheiro is a father, paternal uncles come first, because it says v'mein achim le'aviv. It says if the father has no brothers, then you shall give the inheritance to the sheiro, which we said is the father. So we see that the paternal uncles are mentioned in the verse before the father. Gemara says, no, don't worry about it. Krai shalol kesidran ksuvi. The verses are not written in order. So even though that's how it's written, it's not logical. Gemara is saying it's not possible to interpret the verses that way. Torah was not writing exactly. So the Gemara now says, so we learned that the first concept that a father inherits his son if the son has no offspring is learned out from the word sheiro, but there's a different brisa that learns it out from a different way. The different Tana learns it out from the fact that Tanya at Zu Darash Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi Ish ki amus uven ein lo. If a man will die and he has no offspring. So b'makom ba, and then it says, after it says a man will die and he has no offspring, and you pass away, meaning it passes to his daughter. B'makom bas atamavir nacho amenaav. So it says if there's a daughter, then the father of the deceased does not get it. V'atamavir nacho amenaav b'makom achin. But you don't pass away the inheritance from the father in a place where there is only brothers. Meaning to say, you don't pass it away from the father to the brothers. So this tells us that the father comes before the brothers, because it says Ishki Amusu Ben Enlo. Then you pass it to the daughter, but you don't pass it to the brothers. But you don't pass it from the father if there's brothers. If there's a daughter, you pass it from the father. But if there's brothers, you don't pass it from the daughters, from the father. The Gemara says, but maybe it means if there's a daughter, you take away the inheritance from the brothers. afilu b'makom bas. But maybe it means if there's brothers, you take it away from the daughter, but you don't take it away from the father, even if there's a daughter. So maybe it's just telling us that the daughter comes before the brothers. Where it says, Im kain lo nichtov rachmana v'avartem. If it's according to your logic, the Torah would not have written the word vavartem. The Torah would have just said unisatem, because if it's telling us that vavartem is coming to teach us that the brothers inherit when there's no daughter, it wouldn't have written vavartem. It would have written unisatem, because it's not passing out of the family. It's only passing out of the family when it says the word vavartem. Gemara says, "Uman de nafkale me vavartem." The one who derives it from the word vavartem, then, i.e., Rabbi Shmuel, who says he learns from here that the father inherits the son. Hi she'ero my avile. What does he do with the word she'ero? So Gemara says, "Mi ba'alel kedetanya." Who uses the word she'ero like the following brisa: she'ero zo ishto. The word she'ero here means it's his wife. Muhammad shabal yoresh is ishto. This teaches us that the husband inherits his wife, meaning to say, since it says in the pasuk, it says, hold on, going back to the pasuk here, it says as follows. It says, that under these circumstances, that the husband inherits his wife. That's what it means. And according to one who says that the father inherits the son from the word sheiro, what does he do with the word vavartem? He learns it out. Rabbi Omer Bekul never about Nesina, Kan never about Navara, She'elcham Shemavir Nacham Mishevo Shevet El Bas Hol Benab Ubala Yorshinota. The only one who can take it to teach us that who's the one who takes an inheritance, who takes the land, an inherited field from one tribe to another tribe is a daughter, because if she inherits and then she marries somebody else, and her son and her husband from a different tribe, they'll inherit it. And so therefore, this will cause the money of one tribe to go to a different tribe. So the Gemara says, and how do we know that the word she'ero referred to the father? Because it says she'er avicha he. So because it says in the pasuk, it says she'er avicha he. It says that. Hold on one second. It says in the pasuk in Vayikra Yurches pasuk Yud Beis, with respect to the prohibited relations, that this is the nakedness of the sister of your father. You're not allowed to reveal because she is she'er avicha he. This is the Torah reading for Yom Kippur afternoon. Ema she'ero zu ha'em. So the Gemara says maybe you might think that refers to your mother. Dersev she'er imcha hi. So because it says in the pasuk, she is the nakedness of your mother. So the Gemara explains, Amarava Amarkrami Mishpachto V'yarash Oto. You should give the inheritance to the she'ero as close to his family, and he will inherit her. Mishpachat Av Kriya Mishpacha. Only your father's family is called the family. Mishpachas Aim Ain't a Kriya Mishpacha. From the mother's side, it's not called a family because it says Mishpachosam or base Avosam. We'll stop here so we can dive in Shacharis now. We'll stop here, and everybody, this is the daf for Yom Kippur as well. Yasher koach to everybody.
Thank you.
Stop.